Go ahead.
All right, Nathan.
Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to Historic Zoning Commission meeting this evening on Tuesday, September 22nd. This wonderful year of 2020. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I'm going to turn it over to Matt to start off the first item here.
Wendy, can you enable screen share?
Go ahead.
Can everyone see? Does that look good to everybody?
Yes.
Full screen view of the title?
Yes.
Yeah, looks good to me.
Okay, there you go, Nathan. You can start with the first item there. Or the second item, sorry.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the second item here is the approval of the agenda for this evening. Looking for a motion in a second.
Motion. Second.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second from Dr. Whitfield. We'll just do a quick aye or nay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All those in favor, nay. Wonderful. The motion carries. Item 3 is approval of the minutes of the previous meetings. 3.1 on your agenda there is the approval of the August 25th, 2020 minutes. Does anyone have any comments or changes to those minutes? Okay. Well, in that case, we're looking for a motion and a second.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from
Commissioner
Dr. Hunter. Yes, sir. And a second from Dr. Whitfield. We'll, in the same fashion, we'll do ayes and nays. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Wonderful. The motion carries. In a similar fashion, item 3.2 on your agenda here is the approval of the August 31st special called meeting. I was not present for that. I know several of you were. So any changes to that would be welcome, or a motion. Do you have a motion and a second on item 3.2?
I'll move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for approval from Dr. Hunter and a second from Ms. Biazga. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Wonderful. Let's move on to item 4 here, old business, and I'll officially hand this over to Mr. Manley.
Yes, thank you. On the committee front, we had another design committee, downtown design committee that was last week, where we continued to work on the Breezeway, the downtown Breezeway project. I've got a little bit of an update on that, but it has started. The lights have been installed, and different folks within that committee have the responsibilities have been divided amongst the committee members for different aspects of the elements that are going to be going into the Breezeway. And so the plan is for a unveiling to occur on October 14th. So very quick timeline.
At 3 o'clock, Matt.
At 3 o'clock before supper. So put that, there'll be more information coming to the commission on that so that you will be able to attend. But it is exciting. There's a lot of work to be done, but everything that I'm involved with seems, and as well as the other folks, seems to be on target. So making a big push there. Design committee has been very active on that front. The design review committee has a meeting coming up on Friday where they will be reviewing the downtown revitalization element of the comprehensive plan, along with the historic preservation element of the current comprehensive plan, as part of the feedback gathering for what we're calling the bridge plan, which is a review and assessment of our current comp plan so that we can re-adopt it as an extension for 5 years until we can get up-to-date census data and give us time to begin engaging with the community and building networks of communication so that when we do a full-scale rewrite of our comprehensive plan, we'll have folks to plug into. That may also involve hiring consultants. So we're looking to do a 5-year extension, and so feedback from a select committee of the commission is being sought, and that meeting will occur on Friday. There's also an item for a building downtown, which I need to forward to the committee, that will also be discussed at that meeting. Moving on to staff approved COAs, we will be discussing Montrose Court under new business, but under old business, they were approved to replace a handful of windows on a unit that had boarded up windows. So I was happy to approve that. Also, just down the street, there was approval to replace some Cedar shake siding. It had previously been approved. It may have come to you at the last meeting, but they changed their mind and are going with the Cedar shake, and I think it was a good decision. That's at 708 West Locust. And then at the same property, they're switching out their gutters and they're using these copper. This is actually a picture of Firehouse. Well, I should have seen if anybody could guess, but so that's a nice look. That'll be there at 708 West Locust. And then at 427 West Maple Street, this came in late, but at least it came in. This is just a shingle replacement at that property. Moving on to staff updates regarding previously approved COAs. This is the downtown update. Buffalo Street hasn't, the 1888 building has not had any advancement. I have met with the contractor and we discussed the salvage project for the transom windows. So still waiting on that meticulous project to be completed. The Henry is still under construction. There's a picture here. They're working on the old Sears building portion of that.
Matt, excuse me, Matt.
Yes.
Are you sharing pictures?
Yeah. Can you not see my slide?
No, the only thing we're seeing is the agenda.
You're only sharing the PowerPoint. You need to share the other screen.
I am sharing. It says your screen sharing is paused. Is that better?
No.
There, now you got it. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, that's got it. Okay, thank you.
Now, tell me if this is that better or worse?
Worse.
Yes.
That's worse.
Okay.
Turn off your next slide. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, that works great there.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Sorry about that. So I touched on the 1888 building. I was discussing the Henry, the portion of the Sears building that's been under construction. 104 Tipton Street, the foundation has been poured. You can see here. So a lot of excitement with the brand new building being constructed there. The Breezeway Design we touched on. There's a picture here with the lights on. If you haven't seen it, it's really, really beautiful. I mean, just that improvement alone is really breathtaking. So Mulligan's, their permanent signage is not up, just their temporary banners. But they've started to fill it out inside with their products, and it's really looking great. That's very exciting. Flashback Heat has taken down their banner, which had been up too long, but they have not got their permanent signage up yet. The temporary interactive art, I think, is still stalled due to the property owner not responding to the request for consent. The Burrito has not moved forward yet. Gold Cross, pictured right here, is up and installed and good to go. We can mark that off the list. The 73 Buffalo Street mural has not started yet. I do think they started sprucing up that wall a little bit and maybe hopefully inspecting it some. And then the 400 Ash Street Women's Suffrage mural is up. So I can take that off the list, and it looks great. It's really neat. So that's downtown. And the tree streets, a lot of things have started. The pool and pool house, which was approved maybe in December of last year or January of this year,
Okay.
has started. 423 West Pine Street, new construction is moving right along. You'd see it pictured in the middle. Southside Elementary, I should have gotten a picture of that. I think I did, but I didn't get it posted here. But they started construction on the addition there. 427 West Pine Street, they put the fence up. I'm not sure that the rest of that project is actually going to get done. But
You've sold that house.
They did
Yeah.
sell it.
Mhm.
I may take that one off the list. I think they've done as much as they're going to do. Excuse me. The projects at 700 West Locust have not begun yet. And then the other pool and fence that was approved has started, pictured here on the left. And then I think I pointed the wrong one. This is 709 West Pine Street. They've just begun. You can see the pool here at 1103 Southwest is in the ground. Upcoming initiatives. Not a whole lot to report here. I have heard more interest in the preservation of the bricks that are under the Main Street and Market Street and the trolley tracks that are under there. And that would also be something that would be really good to add into the bridge plan I mentioned earlier as part of the some new language we could add to the downtown revitalization plan is to establish that protocol number 2. So we could look at that on Friday. We need to remember to discuss that. I believe that's it for now. We should create a committee. We've talked about the merit award in the past, and things kind of got slowed down with the pandemic. But at this point, I think we should be looking to form that committee and maybe start tackling that in mid-December, just looking at kind of my availability and timeline. So be thinking about that. We should revisit that at our November meeting and look to form that committee and start putting a schedule in place to come up with a process for that merit award. I think that'd be really great.
Matt, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Just while we're on the topic of committees, and I'm sorry if we've already missed a chance to chat about this, but for some of the other committees, I know Liz and I serve, for instance, on the beautification committee. Should we be planning for future meetings of those committees as well, or is that forestalled at the moment until we have clarification on what's going on with everything? So just before we start on a new committee or plan that, I'm just wanting to ask about the current committees.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I don't know that there is an update available. The latest on that, which goes back almost a year, is that when our chief building official left and resigned, that project was put on hold, and our chief building official position has still not been filled.
Okay.
So that would be, the question is, when the new chief building official is hired and put in place, will this come back? I think a lot of that will have to do with the committee members driving that and really pushing that forward.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure there weren't any updates that, maybe we had missed or anything as we plan out the next few months. So thank you.
Yeah, no, nothing new there. That status of that has stayed the same for good or for bad. I think that committee had a lot of potential, and I think it would be good to bring it back, but there's nothing on the horizon. I think 2021 would be a really great time to kind of breathe some life back into that committee.
And the merit award committee would be a standing committee?
I think it would be more like a task force. I think you'd have there'd be two committees, one that created the process, and then another that served as a nomination to the commission to make the final determinations on who would receive any awards. Does that answer your questions?
It does. Do
I
we
did
need
think
a
of one
committee to
more.
make the committee for the committee, or?
The committee could roll into the next committee, but I would want the responsibilities to be clear, that there would be two different sets of responsibilities.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. That does answer my question.
There was one other item I thought about, which, it's good to just keep adding to the list and not taking anything off the list. That's really the way you want things to go when you're trying to get things done. Just kidding. I do have one that I thought about and actually discussed with Chairman Brand and not to spend too much time on this, but I think this existed before, where there was a brochure that had different elements around downtown, and it was a scavenger hunt. So folks,
Yes.
it would push people to go out into the downtown district and
Yes.
look for little hidden items. With the expansion over along Commerce Street, I think the footprint has kind of expanded where people may want to go, and as where as Founders and that side. So we may want to look at that and have it be more of an interactive online type of experience rather than a paper brochure. But the idea is that you would have a little picture of maybe 10 different things around downtown and not tell people where it is, and they go out and they try to locate where those pictures were taken from.
I don't think we've done one of those, Matt, in about 4 years or 3 years at least. I was involved in doing 2 of them, and then we got prizes from people. One of them was a $50 gift certificate to Tupelo Honey when it was functioning and things like that, for people who completed it on that. Part of the goal was, yes, to get people to walk around downtown and find the things. I think it just didn't get pushed out far enough. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think we should
was
look back
not
at it
very strong.
again. I think putting it online may get it to
Yeah.
more folks. I think our downtown, our small businesses need us to be doing things like this to help support them to get people downtown.
Right.
Okay. Still under old business, our next item is COA 2023-10. This is the Rouge Salon signage that had come to the commission before, but they have completely reworked the proposal. And this is what they've brought for us to consider tonight. So this is now a projecting sign, 24 square feet in size. It is aluminum, which is the Cinnabon material that's been approved on many previous occasions. But the border and the lettering would be illuminated with neon, true neon, white light. So that is the proposal. It meets all the requirements of the design guidelines from a size standpoint, materials, the typeface, the colors, and even the lighting with the tubular style lighting. All of that is in line with our design guidelines. I see no issues with this. I'm recommending approval. Are there any questions for staff?
Matt, are they going to remove that existing sign then?
The existing sign would be removed, and they've proposed to hang it inside.
Oh, really?
Hopefully it would be something that's visible from the outside, because there is a large storefront, and hopefully it's something that can be seen on the inside.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of sad that they were going to remove that. That sounds great. They're going to do that then.
Yeah, I think that was the idea. Was, people hate to see it go, but it was also located in a position where it really didn't leave a whole lot of opportunities for this new business's signage. And the fact that they were showing an interest in preserving it and moving it inside and keeping it with that business, that location,
Right.
I think is as good an outcome as we can
Yeah,
expect.
that sounds good.
Any other questions for staff?
Is this the only sign in their proposal? There no window. I know they wanted to keep the windows open previously, but just to clarify, this is the only element.
That's correct.
Okay.
If there's no other questions, I'm just checking, we could open up the public hearing and hear from the applicant.
Yeah, I have no questions. I'd love to go ahead and open up the public hearing to the applicant if they are here.
I believe there was a representative from Foster Signs.
Tom Foster. Brian Pearson has been working with Rouge on this. His daughter had a soccer game, so he asked me to sit in. So any questions you got, I'll try my best to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Foster at this time? I believe, Matt, we should be able to post if any citizens watching have questions, they can email or call. Is that right?
That's correct. I did. Thanks for the reminder. I just put that up on the screen. So if we have any questions, I'm checking my email now. Not seeing anything. I had not heard any concerns about this prior to the meeting, and would not expect it.
Wonderful.
I have a
Well,
question
yeah.
for either Matt or the applicant representative. Just to be clear, the neon on the border of the sign, that's also white. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. It's a good looking sign. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it.
I also thought it was interesting that it's actual neon,
Yeah, that's cool.
not the push through acrylic. So that is really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, are you going, as I understand it, Cinnabon though, it's kind of a
I think
single layer. It's a plastic that's totally encased in aluminum. So is all the wiring for the neon going to be on the surface, or how is that going to reach out there and get to the beginnings of each tube?
If you look at the side view, and maybe Tom, you're welcome to speak to this. You can see it's got a thickness here. So it'd be two-sided.
Oh, okay.
everything will be internally, and it's actually going to be aluminum instead of Cinnabon. That was a mistake, but
Okay.
it'll actually be.
So it's all aluminum. No, there is
All
no
aluminum. All
foam,
aluminum
not a bond
structure.
included.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
All the wiring be inside, transformer be inside.
The
Everything.
white on the sign will be painted, correct?
Correct.
Painted on the metal. So you have
For the daytime.
that is what you saw on the older signs that had neon, was metal facing
Right.
painted sign that you see during the day, and then following those letters and the borders, it would light at night. And so it's exactly like what we would see in an old historic neon sign.
Yeah.
Much like what you see in the Shamrock sign that we rebuilt that probably 20 years ago, something like that.
And looking at it, it's going to be about 6 inches thick. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It may end up being a little bit thicker than that. Depends on the PK housings, what we can get now. We're getting, everything's hard to get. We're trying to buy up all kinds of neon supplies as they come available, like we'll close out and things of that nature. But it may be a little bit thicker than 6 inches. It depends on the PK housing depths that we can get.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments for the applicant?
I was just wondering if it looks like everything, all the neon tubing would be surface mounted and there's no protection over that. So it's all good. It would be exposed.
Correct. The outside border will have a little lip on it on the outside of the sign.
Okay.
Protect that part, but it just
Okay.
like sort of just like Shamrock is. It's all exposed.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, so.
Right.
Neon's
So okay.
neon's
So
pretty
the
thick,
6
except
inches
for
is the thickness of the border metal that helps protect the neon tubing?
Yes,
Okay.
on the outside part, but
Gotcha.
it's pretty tough. It'll take just about anything but a brick. So,
Yeah, I worry about the bricks,
yeah.
but yeah.
Wonderful.
Nathan, I don't have any emails or phone calls or anything.
Okay.
Can
Well-
I'd like to make a motion. Oh, sorry, unless
We're
the
going to
chairman.
close the public hearing.
Yep, sorry. If the
Thank you,
chairman-
Dr. Whitfield. I'd like to go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. And my understanding is there was a motion.
Yeah, I think it's a very fetching sign, and I would love to go ahead and propose a motion that we approve it as presented.
I'll second that.
Appreciate it, Hal.
Yeah, I think it's a good design. I really like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great addition to our downtown. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Lawrence, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Biasca,
Yes.
Commissioner Forsyth,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hunter,
Yes,
Commissioner McCusker,
Yes.
Commissioner Toole,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield,
Yes.
Chairman Brand.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank y'all very much.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
Tom.
yep. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Have a great night.
You too.
Wonderful. Matt, the next item on the agenda, I'm trying to change my screen so I can make sure that I have the right one.
So,
Is this Montrose Court?
yeah, we'll go under new business. This is COA 2020-317, 701 West Locust Street. This is for a roof replacement at Montrose Court, which is a multifamily condo ownership historic landmark in the center of the Tree Streets. We're all familiar with it. It currently has a slate roof. This is an old photo of it. I love looking at this and kind of looking at the differences through the years. I think there was some fire damage, or maybe it burned significantly and was rebuilt in the 20s. I'm not sure if some of these changes are from that rebuild, but the biggest one being the balconies are gone. But you can see the roof. I'm sure it hasn't been touched practically since then. The slate is very thin. You can see even from the street level, you can see how thin it is, and it is there's a good bit of damage, not only to the roof, but other aspects of wood rot and subroofing problems and things that are related to water besides just the roof. So fixing the roof is extremely needed, and as well as some other repairs that are needed to this beloved building. So unfortunately, the historic material of slate is very valued from a preservation standpoint. That is why I brought it to the commission. Staff has the ability to approve roof replacements, but in this particular situation, I did not want to be the one that says, sure, go ahead and get rid of all this historic slate material and put up very common architectural shingles. I wanted the commission to weigh in on that. And so I am seeing it, as I have on other similar projects, as a partial demolition, and just refer to the section of the guidelines that refer to demolition. The one that stands out to me the most is number 3 under inappropriate. If a building, object, or structure is of such old or unusual or uncommon design and materials that it could not be reproduced without great difficulty and expense. And I believe that is the issue here. Elsewhere in the guidelines, it does reference that roofs and roof materials and slate and shingles are key elements that are important to the district, but it doesn't have a whole lot of teeth in that section. So I think looking at the demolition portion of the guidelines is what is guiding us here. And I'll draw your attention to the quote for the project for the shingles. The shingles are shown here is basically $178,000 to replace the slate with dimensional shingles. In addition to that, so I talked to this applicant several times over probably over a year about this project, and asked them, please look into salvaged slate or slate replacement. I knew slate replacement would be very, very expensive, but I was hopeful that maybe there was some other slate material that had been salvaged that possibly get a better rate, or some type of alternative slate, whether it's a synthetic slate or something to that, that would give the exact same feel but hold up better over time. And so Leonard Roofing submitted this email as well that says synthetic slate roof installation typically runs approximately 4 times the cost of an architectural shingle installation. So you take that 178,000, you multiply it times 4. We are talking about a very, very high price tag. The other issue is that, as you saw in some of the other pictures, there's a lot of damage to this building. And so my way of viewing this is that if we can help bring, the roof has to be done to save the building, before anything else can be done, the roof needs to be fixed. Rather than try to force a very expensive roof to have to be installed, let's make it somewhat reasonable that they're already paying a really high price tag just for the roof, but let's free them up to then have some remaining budget and resources to put towards the other repairs that also need to be made in order for this structure to continue to be preserved. And so it's kind of a big picture, save the building, maybe not worry so much about this particular material, which is, 3 stories, 4 stories up from the ground, and is not, right there at street level anyway. So staff is recommending approval of the dimensional architectural shingle in light of looking at the big picture on this. And are there any questions about that? I'm hopeful that maybe the applicant may have a sample of the shingle that they can show if they're on video. But that is what was submitted to me. The clearest picture I had was of this shingle shown here.
So Matt, they're gonna put asphalt on the very top then, where you won't see it from the road? Is that right?
No, it will be all this visible area would be replaced.
Yeah.
On the back side, you're looking at a membrane. So all of this area in white would have a rubber membrane on it.
Okay,
As best as I understand. And then everything in yellow is where you have slate now that would be replaced with architectural shingle. And all that is visible from the right of way.
because there was some asphalt shown in the agenda there, so at least that's what
in your staff report?
yes.
Okay, so there was another image of the example of the asphalt shingle. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Matt, who owns this now?
It's a condominium association.
Well, do you know any names that you can share?
Well, Brett Hatcher's the president. He's been the one who's been working on fixing it up. He does not live there, but owns at least one of the units and has been really spearheading the efforts to get organized and get repairs done. There's a long history of issues with this particular condo association and their property managers. And I don't want to, speak out of turn, but they were unable to, or they were treated poorly and unable to maintain basic maintenance and repairs for several reasons. One of which was due to the property managers, but also even some of the majority owners were deferring maintenance. And I'll let the applicant speak to that in more detail. So we're looking at a situation that has gotten a lot worse than it ever should have. But now you've got folks who are stepping in and have a much harder, much more difficult challenge ahead of them now, but they're stepping up to get it done in order to preserve the building. And so this is one way that we can recognize the kind of the big picture on this and try to help them out to start chipping away at some of the issues here.
You know, it's a real icon in Johnson City. And it's got a lot of history, and there's rumors that Al Capone at one time came and lived there.
Right.
So it's got a lot of character, no question.
Well, and it is a centerpiece of the neighborhood, and the organization has been very concerned about it and reached out, tried to find ways that we could help with this, but you know, it's just bigger than the Southside Neighborhood Organization can take on, and all. But we are glad now that the property owner association, whatever, has made some changes and been able to get some traction here to really move forward and do some things that are correcting it. Had some real mismanagement over the years.
Let's hear from them, if you will.
I got a question for you, Matt. Matt,
Okay.
So the way I understand it, so it's slate. Historically, slate can be almost cost prohibitive to replace. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So recommending an alternative that would not look as nice, but it would save money, so they can make other repairs. Is that correct?
That's the way I'm approaching it. And one of the things, so I also looked at information from the Secretary of the Interior, National Park Service on slate roofs, and they very much push repair rather than replace. And so that was another angle that I took with the applicant. And the roofing experts who looked at this, and they can speak to this better than me, but they reached out to some, and they were going to charge a significant amount of money just to come look at it. I don't know if that was just because they are so busy, because of their expertise in historic buildings, or because of it being 3 stories off the ground, 4 stories off the ground.
Yeah.
But they were going to charge too much just to even come look at it and give a quote. But I feel certain that Leonard Roofing has expertise in this enough to be able to speak to it. And they say because the type of slate that was used was so thin, that it has just deteriorated beyond any ability to repair or spot replace or anything like that. There's just no salvaging it, is my understanding. That's what I'm told.
I guess one concern I have, and I'd like to hear from the rest of the commission or the board, see how you guys feel, but I would hate to make this this change and have the roof made of synthetic material and lose the historical aspects of it. So they would make these other repairs, and then those other repairs would never happen. Because as you said, there's been a long history of a lot of these projects with the Montrose Court never being completed. And so it'd be a shame that we would make an allotment for this for other repairs to occur and they never occur. I guess that's my concern.
I think that's a great point, Dr. Whitfield. And I also just want to bring to the attention of the commission, because I looked into this as well when I saw that it was on the agenda, and referring to the same resource that Matt referenced. So the National Park Service actually has a dedicated resource specifically to slate roofing. And it's pretty adamant in identifying it as a, quote, critical design feature that many historic buildings that cannot be duplicated using substitute materials. I mean, it really does push for the critical design element and characteristic of this particular material. And in another one of their resources, they actually identify slate and its use on Tudor revival buildings throughout the early 20th century specifically. So, I mean, in addition to its widespread use from as early as the 1700s, we're looking at a very specific material associated with the style, the architectural style of the Montrose. So, I mean, this is going to be a really hard decision no matter what. And obviously we don't want to be inflexible, but at the same time, I think what makes this so challenging is that this particular material is not only really unique and really special, but from a preservationist standpoint, there's pretty much consensus on it being, you know, integral really to the history and the character of the building. So I do want that acknowledged that.
Would they be eligible? Would they be eligible for a grant for this?
That's the question I was going to raise, because it is on the National Register
That's
by
what I
itself,
thought.
not as a part. Yeah, it's on the National Register as itself, not as part of the tree streets.
Right.
Before we get too far into the discussion, I'd like to hear from the applicants in the public
Okay.
hearing, and then let's continue this conversation after we've heard from them.
All
And
right.
I just wanted to give the applicant an opportunity to address that, which is why I didn't want them to not be able to comment on that. So.
And you can feel free to direct questions to the applicant as well.
Wonderful. Well, thanks all commissioners for your thoughts. Very helpful. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. You know, as always, there should be an email and a phone number or a Zoom link presented here at this moment. I would love to go ahead and hear from the applicant if they're present.
Matt, this is Tammy Allen. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you speak? Just state your full name and address, please.
My name is Tammy Allen, and I own 2 units in the Montrose complex. And I actually live in North Carolina, though, but I have a second condo there in Tennessee. So when we're talking about this roof, and first of all, let me say that this is a new committee, HOA committee, about 3 years old, and we walked into a hornet's nest. So, and I've only owned, and all of us are really eager in getting this roof done. One of the problems is it's an economic hardship. These units are, they sell anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000. So to expect these people to be able to come up with $20,000 a piece to afford this slate roof, which we would love to have, it's just unreasonable. There's no way. As a matter of fact, we're in litigation right now trying to collect from 2 homeowners so that we can get all this money together. And we're almost there. We've made great strides in doing this. But we have water damage, and we are constantly having to make repairs to ceilings in the units now because of the damage that's coming through. One of the problems with the slate is it's not been addressed for such a long time, is there's so much damage that is going to be uncovered when they take it off. And
Right.
that's even possibly some additional cost that's going to fall on top of this $178,000 that we're looking at. We have some padding in there for that, but who knows once they start taking it off. But it's imperative that we get this roof on, and we really don't want to go through another snow, sleet season with this roof like it is. And we're not putting an inferior roof. I wish because cosmetically we could do what everyone would like for us to do, but it's just not possible. It's an economic hardship. The money's just not there. We have looked into trying to get grants. That's not a possibility because there's no business in the unit. It's all residential. And so we were told that it doesn't qualify for any type of grant. Any questions that you might have for me that I can answer, I'll try.
Tammy, what does your timeline look like pending approval on the roof? How long until the project is complete, would you think?
They're telling us that maybe 2 months, they could have it completed in 2 months. If we can get started on it. And that is a problem because if we don't get started on it soon, we're going to get into bad weather. And then that might cause postponement of getting it completed. Because once they get it torn off, we got to get it back on. And if snow comes in or sleet and that sort of thing, they can't get up there and work. So our window is closing quickly for getting it done this year.
Have you all consulted, just out of curiosity, the organization with the preservationists at all, or has your consultation mostly been with roofing companies?
We have only contacted roofing companies. We have had about 5 different roofing companies out there, but if you're not sitting down when you get some of these quotes, you put yourself in danger. So yeah, we were very happy with Leonard's quote.
Absolutely. I'm just curious, if there had been a preservationist who had weighed in on it at all. But yeah, I know that those are costly and it's a big building, so I'm sure it's intimidating and a little overwhelming.
Tammy, have you contacted you said you applied for grants?
No, we did not apply for grants. We looked into applying for a grant.
Were those with the Tennessee, were those through the Tennessee Historic Commission?
You know what? That is a question for another board member who is not on here. I did not do that myself.
I did send them information with the THC grants, and it sounds like what she might be referencing is historic tax credits, federal historic tax credits. But she mentioned that there's no business, though there are rental units, and I'm not an expert on it, but tax credits are available to income producing properties. It's not just, doesn't have to just be commercial. It can be residential if it's income producing, but I don't know that this would qualify based on the condo style ownership.
But it shouldn't need to have a business for, there's different categories. So it should qualify for different historic preservation grants if it's on the National Register, regardless of a business being in there.
Right.
Grants, definitely. I'm just clarifying on the tax credit.
Yeah, I just want Tammy to know that is a resource, and those are large chunks of money.
Yes.
So I don't want you to have misinformation about not qualifying for specific types of grants through the NPS, the National Park Service.
Yeah, and a lot of those will go through the Tennessee Historic Commission, and a lot of those grants, especially on historic buildings that are on the register, 2 items that really are critical to them are roofs and windows. Yeah, you can't, I don't think, even though some of those condos are rented, the owner can't claim that historic tax credit. Now, I do know a number of years ago, before it went on the register, there was one owner who bought the building. It was really run down. He basically restored it using the historic tax credit and then converted it into what it has become now. And then of course sold it off. So it's,
How long would it take to get a grant though, Hal?
well, that's the problem. It's going to be about a year at least.
That's what I was wondering.
The application process would be you wouldn't get one right now. You would have to have applied for it a year ago, because the next grant cycle would actually, as far as actually doling out cash, would be starting next October 1st, because it's based on the federal fiscal year.
Right.
And the other issue is they are not upfront. You would have to pay the money and then get reimbursed, and they are 60-40 matching.
60-40, okay.
60-40. So the organization would have to come up with 40%.
Gotcha.
I have a question for you, Tammy. Do you guys have the money? So if this was approved this evening, do you guys have the money to begin this project now?
We do.
You do.
We do.
And Tammy, can you tell me the difference in cost per unit based off if we do the sorry, I don't know the term, the current proposal now versus slate? What would be the cost difference per unit?
How many units are there, Tammy?
There are 29 units. And yeah, there are 29 units.
Are you calculating this up, Matt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually,
it would be triple what they already paid.
Right. So it'd be about roughly $25,000 per unit.
Right.
I'd like to
replace with slate.
I'd like to jump in for a second, and I'm
Sure.
sorry to interrupt.
Based
but I
on
wanna
Leonard's,
get
based
some
on,
clarification.
that's based on Leonard's quote. Sorry, let me just
Right.
clarify that.
I'd like to clarify that quote, if we could, Tammy, that the 177,891 is for the entire project, and then you have some additional alternates such as replacing the gutters, replacing gutters, and then a warranty. But the 177 includes also basically the entire rest of the project, which is a TPO roof on the flat portion. And then all the drip edge and flashing associated with the entire project. So my question is, what is the cost of the architectural shingle portion compared to the TPO portion?
That's a great question.
Mhm.
Because I think
Uh,
I don't
there
want
is-
to,
There's
if we're
another,
talking it's
if
4 times as
Brett
much,
is on,
what is it 4 times?
if Brett is on the call and has anything to add to this, he's the main point of contact and applicant. If you
The-
state your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name's Brett Hatcher. I live at 326 Camelot Drive, Bristol, Tennessee. I own Unit 39 at 701 West Locust Street. My daughter lives in it while she's going to college. That's how I got involved with the HOA and trying to get this thing fixed up. Now-
Do you know the cost of the shingle replacement, excluding the membrane portion of the roof?
They told me we were looking in the neighborhood of about 550,000 on just that portion. If we went with the slate.
Okay.
And the synthetic slate's cheaper than the real slate because there's more breakage. She said real slate could go up to 5 times. But I told her, I said, listen, I said, at that point, there's no need in us quoting that. We can't afford that.
Okay, so so the 4 times the quote was actually at the $500,000 quote is 4 times just the shingles portion. Does that make sense, Commissioner McCusker?
Well, I think so, but I don't think I guess I'm still trying to figure out that if it's 4 times as much, the shingles portion is not 177,900. So I just want to know what are the, if they're, what's that breakdown? Because if the TPO is half of that, or it's 100,000, and then the shingles is only 78,000, and I say only, that's still a lot of money.
So he just gave a number that if you divide it by 4 is $125,000 would be the portion for the shingle work. But in either case, you've got one comment from Leonard Roofing say it's 4 times the cost of architectural shingles. And then you've also got a rather than a multiplier, you also have just a direct number that's coming from the applicant, roughly $500,000. So
No, but I agree with Commissioner McCusker. I mean, I think that, it's clear that it's more expensive. I don't think anybody's doubting that it's exponentially more expensive or would be a financial hardship. I just think it would be valuable to be able to compare a concrete number for that material in order to see how that fits into the quote in the project. I mean,
well, I think that number was just given by the applicant.
No, I understand. And it's not that I'm doubting, Brett at all or the conversation they had. It just, again, with the presence of an involvement of 5 different roofing companies, it would be nice to have a concrete number that we could refer to, because I think that you bring up some discrepancies in the quote and in the calculation, Commissioner McCusker, that, it just would be nice to be able, because this is such a central feature in historic preservation conversations, it would be easier to feel more confident moving forward if you had a concrete number.
Megan, can you put the picture back up that shows the roof? I don't know who had that with the yellow.
Yeah, the aerial plan.
Yes,
Mhm.
from the top. I mean, I think if you look at that, and this is not scientific, but if we say that that's a third of the cost, which would be $56,000, and then they're saying synthetic would be 4 times that, we're looking at $200,000. Does that make sense? I mean,
It does make sense, Tammy. It's just we're submitted. Usually, I feel like with the way that these things go, we're submitted with very concrete things to go off of in terms of square footage, types of materials, things like that. And so just for our own edification, it's helpful to have a reference directly from the company that outlines quantity, size, timeframes, monies, things like that. And again, because this is a feature that's identified in historic preservation as a key design element, you know, it's not that we're trying to put additional burdens on you. It's just that if they were already providing a quote, it would be nice to know exactly what that number was so that we can say, well, absolutely, that's way too much. You know, I mean, look at the cost per quantity or cost per square foot, et cetera, et cetera. That's all I'm saying is that those materials are beneficial with these applications because it's much more straightforward.
Yep. And I'd like to add to Dr. Toole's comment that when we're making an argument that, for financial hardship, you have to provide the information, you have to provide the numbers. We have nothing, all we have is, some guesses on top of the quote, and the quote itself isn't particularly clear. To that end, this building is notable for two main architectural features. First is the roof, and the second is the porches. We've already lost the porches. And I fear that if we do not do something, slate or not, to preserve the character of the roof, then it is in grave danger of losing its status on the historic register. And I think that would be detrimental to your community and to our district. So I think we need to have a better resolution at least.
Yeah, I agree, Jeff.
Property values as well.
I haven't even thought about that, but have we looked into whether or not changing the roof would require removing the building from the National Register? I don't know what characteristics for instance, if it joined the National Register because of architectural significance, the roof being a key part of that, would it lose its designation on the register?
Right. I think you're spot on.
Hal may be able to weigh in on that. I'm not as...
I think that's it's definitely a fair question. And certainly my understanding is that it would there's a high likelihood that would damage its position on the National Register.
Yeah.
I have a question.
I think that could be a factor on that. I'm trying to think. I don't recall the balconies ever being on the building as long as I've lived here.
All right.
That would have been since 1976. I think the balconies were gone in one of the earlier, as you mentioned, it might have been a fire or something like that.
Right.
I heard Al Capone turned them into whiskey houses.
Interesting enough, I'll do a screen share here, or I'll try. It lists asphalt shingles on the, now this is the Tree Streets National Register description, but it is listed separately as a landmark.
Right.
But this says asphalt shingle gable roof. So that is obviously incorrect.
The listing for my house is also incorrect. So I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of incorrect things on there.
I'd like to
the
raise a
listing
question
for my house is
for,
incorrect too. It
Brett,
says
please.
it's a tribute. I don't understand.
Yeah.
Mr. Hatcher, this is Commissioner Whitfield. Have you guys looked into the option of getting a loan to secure the mounts for this?
Yes, but probably within a week.
Mr. Hatcher, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we have. Thank you.
We have already started pursuing a loan to finish everything that we've got with the money that we've got received so far to work toward this roof. We're going to have to, as an HOA, borrow money to finish, and we know that.
Okay.
So we are stretching the budgets, trying to get this roof on there as we speak. And the biggest issue we've got, guys, we all inherited this in the shape that it's in, and we're trying to preserve it to the best of our abilities. but slate is outside of what we can afford.
I would just to weigh in here, just kind of listening to the comments being made. I think it's some very valid points have been made by the commissioners. Mr. Hatcher and I have had several conversations about this. I do believe they're doing the best that they can with the hand they've been dealt. But what I'm hearing is that this is kind of bigger than all of us, and that we cannot make decisions that would be detrimental to this particular structure without additional information. And that was something I had stressed with the applicant, is providing evidence and providing information that would guide this decision. And it does seem that it's not very clear. We've got one quote from one company, but being told there was 5 folks. There was the issue of my understanding is that there were certain experts that were wanting to charge a premium just to look at it. I would be curious if we can, and Commissioner Toole, maybe through some of your contacts, if we could find someone who could do an assessment that is a historic preservation expert, and possibly work with Snow or THC and find some way to get some funding to just do that assessment, and hopefully come back in a few weeks. We'll talk about the October meeting in a little bit, but that may be something I would suggest, just based on the feedback I'm hearing, is that we try and go out and get that information to support one way or the other, if it really is a cost prohibitive situation, or if it's a economic hardship, that the owners can provide additional evidence supporting that claim.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Mr. Hatcher, I'm not gonna make a motion right now because the public forum is still open, but please don't just misunderstand us. I think all of us are very sympathetic to this. A lot of us live very close. I just live around the corner from Montrose Court. We love this building. A lot of us have a lot of pride in this building, and we want to see it preserved. And I think if you would be willing to work with us, and something we can give and yield to the community besides voting things up and down is a lot of our expertise that are people on the commission right now. And so if you're willing to work with us and to spend a little bit more time getting some quotes, maybe talking to Snow, Karen Cross, talking to Mr. McCusker and Dr. Toole, I think we might be able to maybe find some other alternatives that are not so dire and bleak as the one we're faced with today.
Well, and just to echo that, just to reiterate to both Brett and Tammy, we're so appreciative for everything that you're doing. Please, know that we are in every way willing to work with you as much as we can. It's just part of this commission's responsibility is to protect our historical and cultural resources, for future generations, and to make decisions that are very difficult. So I hope that you all understand that we're just doing our best to be good stewards of our community. And, we do appreciate you and your efforts. We care very much about this building, and we appreciate what you're doing. So
I've got a number of contacts that I can reach out to in terms of options. Might be able to give us some advice on this also.
Matt, is there any other resources that the city can also provide to help out with this, to help maybe secure some money or some assessments?
I think from a staff perspective, we'd be glad to help. There, as far as financial, I would because
I don't want to go to
probably reach out to administration. They're the ones who have control of the purse strings. So or through the city commission and the mayor. That would probably be a direction I would go.
Yeah, I don't want to just tell Mr. Hatcher we'll talk about this next month and just give him a lot of phone numbers and emails to check out. Like I like to help them any way we can.
Well, I'd say it's similar to the Ash Street Courthouse effort where people got organized, a coalition was formed, and people worked really hard at a grassroots level to bring attention to it and get resources directed towards it. I feel that this is right on par with that.
I believe the
And I feel like
community
the rest
would.
of snow, I think, if you guys have not tapped into snow yet, I think that's a strong ally that's willing to help. A lot of people in that neighborhood care about that building.
The neighborhood's very much invested in the outcome of that building. I also think too, I'm looking at the National Register application from 1980, and my concern is that it looks like the only significance that the building was indicated for is architectural from the 1900 period, early 1900s. So I do think that, we need to maybe consult with some folks that are more knowledgeable about the consequences of potential changes along those lines.
Exactly.
Commissioner Toole, is that the original, that's the application for Montrose by itself?
Yes, correct.
Does it reference the slate?
It does.
Okay, because it's incorrect. I looked at another resource and it's incorrectly listed there
The
too.
slate was put on by SM White Company. Freckled flecks of purple, gray, and green blend into unusual effect, which also complicates things because it sounds like it was specifically commented on. So I'll forward this document to the other commissioners and to you, Mr. Manley, so we all have it.
Great, thank you.
I would like to, take a second. Another quick question for Brett. Let's say that we eventually approve removal of this slate. What would then happen to that material? Do you have any?
You're muted.
Any sort of preservation plan or some next step?
It's so thin by what we're being told that it's probably unusable for anything. And the other piece to that is if you try to pull it off restoring it, then you got another $30,000 just to demo it. So I mean, every step that we've taken with slate has been so cost prohibitive that, all we're trying to do right now is preserve the building and keep it livable and in good shape as best we can. And it just, every corner we turn, we've had estimates from $177,000 for shingles and that flat roof and the replacement, all the way up to $550,000, and that's with shingles. So I mean, they're all over the ballpark. And the biggest issue we've got finite resources. We've got individual owners. If it was one person writing a check and we could just do that, it would be a possibility. But at the point that I go back to the board members and I said, okay, guys, we did the first one for no reason. And now we're going to have to try to come up with another $15,000 or $20,000 a piece. They're going to tell us, let it fall in probably.
Well, what I'm hearing tonight, just to be clear, is that if the financial situation is as you state it to be, then there possibly would be some consideration for the replacement with shingles. But what the commission is indicating is that they would like to see an exhaustive effort of utilizing additional resources, grants, other expertise, other community partners, and additional documentation that supports what is being stated. And so I think that's going to take additional time, and it may be the case that it is cost prohibitive and it's not, there's no other alternative, but we've got to seek out and get that confirmed by other folks and additional experts. And does that sound like an accurate summary of what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
I would also want to add that just to look at, because I'll be blunt in the assessment, my assessment of the proposal is that it doesn't make much attempt to preserve any of the character of the existing roof, whether it's color, style, material, anything. So having said that, I would like to suggest that, the applicant consider consulting an architect to provide a set of drawings, particularly hearing the variance in the cost that I'm seeing, that the roofers that you've been talking to seem to just put a number to it without a complete understanding of the project. And I believe that having a defined set of requirements for these roofers to bid would provide a lot more concrete information that you can get a better number. And in that process, it's called a competitive bid. And you give it to multiple roofers at the same time with the understanding that they're going against each other. And that gives you much better footing to do any project like this. And I would say a multi-use or a multi-family historic structure like this certainly qualifies as that type of project where it's big enough that it would make sense.
I think that definition has been given. We're looking at a complete takeoff and replacement roof. We're not looking at any patchwork. So that definition was given to every roofing company that we contacted.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that very much. I think I would like to step in and say that what I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners is that we would like to see those things just physically presented to us. We'd like to see quotes from all the roofers. We'd like to see just you know, we have to report to our constituents. We have to, you know, give a very strong reason why our children won't be seeing something so historic and special. And that reason sounds like it sounds like a good reason, but we need just a little bit more evidence to be able to defend that decision. And you know, to be honest, we have, I think, a reasonable desire to just 100% make sure that this is the right course of action. So to that end, I think we've heard some great perspectives from all parties.
Can I add something, please?
Certainly, yes.
Hi, my name is Donna Hatcher, and I'm obviously married to Brett Hatcher, who lives in Bristol, Tennessee. And I'm one of the co-owners there, and I've been listening along with you guys, and I'm not on the board. But I am a co-owner there, and I will tell you, I'm going to give you a little background information. Things that personally affect me and have bothered me like this, I've listened along and things. And I want to go back 3 years ago when my husband and I purchased this unit. All right. And I want to deal with some facts. Like when we came through and we were like, oh, this is kind of cool. We might want our daughter to live here for college. We were sold a big fat lie. We were sold a big fat lie on that everything at the Montrose was getting ready to be redone. We were buying at the greatest time ever. And yes, we could see all these problems and everything, but it was going to be taken care of. 2 days after we purchased the unit, an assessment came out. 2 days. And we said, you know what? We're going to pay it because something's going to get fixed. 6 months later, not one thing had been done. And my husband and I are starting to have leaks inside the ceilings, and our unit is being damaged, and we're having problems. And we're thinking, we're not going to move our kid into this. So we became very active in going to the HOA meetings and doing things. Now, the people that someone referenced earlier about, well, we've done this with them before and they didn't do what they want to. That is not the people you are speaking to right now. We are all within the last 3 years owners purchasing in this building. We inherited this mess from the previous people who absolutely 100%. It took us a solid year to get that property manager out of this business and out of the Montrose. When we finally got the financial records, Montrose was bouncing checks all over Johnson City. The water bill sometimes didn't get paid. The electricity, you name it. You can't get people to come to the Montrose and work 3 years ago because they said they don't pay their bills. So when you see the improvements you're talking about, like when you go to that building back there and the parking and the new guttering's on, it's been pulled off and it's been repainted, and you look at the mulch and the repairs that's been made on the outside of the building and all the new windows that have gone in, it's 5 people doing everything. And along the way, it is a constant battle with the other 24 owners in this building. And I don't know if you caught the part, we're literally suing owners to get them to pay the assessment. As bad as everything is there, they still won't. We have one unit that hasn't even paid his HOA fees in 3.5 years. We went from negative to what we have now and made all these improvements. We're up on fire codes and all these other things, and we've tried so hard along the way to do the right thing. But I'm going to be very honest with you and tell you, the roof is going to make the building condemnable before long. We're almost every HOA member is on the 3rd floor, and we're all suffering, and we're all personally taking our time and our money, and we've tried every route you can think of. And as I tell you this, my daughter is going to be leaving ETSU soon. And we've got a year and a half left that we would love to see a roof put on this place. And when you say, can you wait another month, or hold on, can you wait another month or 2 months? Do you understand that puts us farther back in getting them to do the roof? So like it puts it longer, and the cost is going up because of materials and everything that's happened politically right now. So we're barely within grasp right now, and I'm terrified you're getting ready to put it out of reach after we've worked so hard for this long. And I get what you're saying about the slate. Everyone loves the slate, but there are also other buildings on those tree streets, and I've watched homes be done where they've removed slate and they've put these architectural shingles on there. So for my part, as an owner here, and maybe for a very short time, because like I say, my daughter's getting out of ETSU soon, but wouldn't it be better to have a roof that literally keeps the building from being condemned than to not have a roof at all?
Ms. Hatcher, I appreciate your passion, and I appreciate you jumping in.
It's passion, because I work there all the time, as these other owners do. It is our labor and our physicalness. And if it becomes so hard, I just don't know. There was really no board before this group. And what's going to happen after this group? It's scary.
I understand that very much, and I appreciate your everything you have to say. However, I am of the opinion, as I would argue that most of my fellow commissioners are, that in the life of this building, the deferment of this decision over the course of the next 30 days will not have an effect to the detriment that you expressed that it might. And I understand.
So if it does, if there is an increase in cost, would you all be willing to incur that cost for us?
Commissioner Brand, I would suggest, I think that we've taken in all the information we can take in tonight. I would suggest that we close the public hearing. And I would also propose that the design review committee, which is already set to meet on Friday, if they would accommodate taking a portion of that meeting to have an additional conversation with Mr. Hatcher and Mrs. Hatcher or Tammy, anyone who would want to participate, and that the goal and the outcome of that design review committee meeting is that we give them a list of actionable tasks that they need to perform, actions that need to be completed in order to satisfy the consideration for the removal or replacement of the roof. That it's, as Dr. Whitfield mentioned, that it's more than just, here's a list, here's some hyperlinks. No, we need to give more than that and put some attention to this. And then I'll also state that the October Historic Zoning Commission meeting is likely to be moved up because I will be on leave if you are so accommodating. So we would not be looking at a full month delay. And so I think with having a design review committee that's literally in 2 days is a quick turnaround, and even a commission meeting that may be in 3 weeks, that's a pretty quick turnaround for us to go out, get additional information, get additional evidence, and come back and make a decision quickly.
Matt, I just want to take an opportunity to again thank both the Hatchers and Tammy for being here and for the effort they put into this building. It is a very emotional process. It is a hard process. Historic buildings are difficult. They require effort and time and resources, and they cause a lot of frustration. And, one of the reasons that the building is standing at all is because people like you care about it. So we're thankful for that. I think we're all on the same page about, if it's cost prohibitive, it is better to put on a roof than allow the building to be demolished or to be condemned. We all agree with that. This is merely part of the process of owning part in or stake of a historic property. That's it. So I hope you all realize that, this is not personal in any way. This is just part of the procedures we have to go through for due diligence. We do not take for granted your effort or how much you care.
And I can confirm that we've seen a massive turnaround in the work being done there. And I've talked to Mr. Hatcher several times over the last year and a half, and they're driving this train, and they're the only ones that have put any attention to this building, and they're going against a tide. And so they need, yes, I appreciate you thanking them, and they need to be commended for the effort they put into this. And we need to do whatever we can to help them. The problem that I see is that we're having this conversation now, and probably should have happened months and months ago. So we weren't coming to this point. But it is the responsibility of the commission to make these difficult decisions. And so I think a little additional time is warranted.
Let's add it. If I'm amenable, I'm part of the DRC on Friday. I'm amenable to adding it to the agenda if the other commissioners that will be present are also amenable.
Great. Yeah.
I appreciate all of these facts, and to that end, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we will open this item for a motion.
Dr. Whitfield here. I'd like to make a motion that we table this agenda item currently to be discussed by the Design Review Committee on Friday, and to be picked up again at the following meeting in October. And at that point, yeah, I agree. If we can make the objectives and they can give us more clear-cut data that this is financially unfeasible, then yeah, I would be fine with voting on it then for the other alternative roof. But yeah, so right now, to clarify all my rambling, I'd like to make a motion that we table this till next month.
The correct terminology would be defer. For the record.
Defer. Thank you, Mr. Manley. Defer.
Yeah. All right, we have a motion to defer action in lieu of further documentation. Do we have a second?
Second.
Can I take a quick moment and just once again thank the Hatchers for coming here and for doing all of the work, and we really want to work with you on this, and we're gonna get this done.
You too, Tammy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I would thank you also for your work on this. And as Mr. Manley said, we should have had this conversation, a year ago or so. But anyway,
we need to call the roll.
Yep.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Lawrence.
Commissioner Biasca,
Yes.
Commissioner Forsyth,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hunter,
yes,
Commissioner McCusker,
Yes.
Commissioner Toole,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield,
Yes.
and Chairman Brand.
Yes.
Motion to defer approved.
Brett, I will touch base with you tomorrow.
Thank you, Matt. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Do I just hit leave?
Okay. The next item is COA 2020-320. This is for a mural in the downtown square breezeway. You have approved this entire project and some elements of it. However, this mural was undefined at the time of that, so I wanted to bring it back to you. This is, again, we're dealing with, as our previous murals, this is not historic brick. It's a clear, flat, blank wall, no architectural detailing to speak of, and trying to add some color and life to this breezeway. So it's a 7-foot by 9-foot area that would be positioned towards the downtown square parking lot side of the breezeway. It meets all the design standards and design guidelines. The preliminary design is shown on the screen. This was a finalist. There are 2 other finalists, but this was the top finalist. So I wanted to show this to you. The design and the content is not within the purview of your decision making, but I did want you to get an idea of what was being where things are leaning with the design for this. With it not being the final design, and there still be a little bit of a process to go through before the Johnson City Public Art Committee can approve the final design, we do not have that approval at this time. So what I would like to do, and based on the timeline I mentioned earlier with the October 14th unveiling, we would need to approve it at this meeting in order for them to stay on their timeline. I would suggest, and I make the recommendation that we approve it with the condition that the Public Art Committee approve the final design, kind of somewhat out of order with the way we typically do it. They would approve it after your approval, and that they also approve the material. There's some question as to whether it's going to be painted or if that breathable mesh that was used for the women's suffrage mural may be used. So we don't have those definitive aspects. That said, the concern over the material is lessened by the fact that this is not historic brick, and so painting it is not going to be as big of an issue if the correct type of paint material is used, which the Public Art Committee is well versed in and will guarantee that that's what gets done. So the expertise of Johnson City Public Art Committee alleviates a lot of the concerns that we may have. They're good qualified folks behind the scenes on that. That said, it is a JCDA project, so they're also kind of helping push this thing forward. And then there is the role that Commissioner Forsyth and myself have on the design committee. So we're all kind of keeping our eyes on this thing on a day-to-day basis, not just at a historic zoning commission monthly basis. And so with that, I say with confidence that we would get this done correctly if given approval this evening. Are there any questions for staff?
Looks great.
One modification, or actually the list of modifications include striking out west and putting east, because this is the lyric from the Wagon Wheel song. And it is geographically incorrect in the lyrics. And so to correct that and kind of make a nod and joke about the fact that they've said it incorrectly, and create some additional sense of place, that's one modification that's been proposed and is likely to occur. The other is
I appreciate that.
Yeah, a lot of people brought that up.
Yeah, I'm glad, because I honestly, you can't get away from this song, and I think that's an appropriate response.
I think it's.
There was a lot of healthy discussion about the song and the place that it has in a mural.
Yeah, I mean, it's not content if it's just plain facts, right?
Right. Exactly. Right. We're just promoting or discouraging misinformation.
Yeah,
I think it's an artistic reimagining of geography. I kind of dig it.
Another modification is to increase the representation of diversity of people. Also to add a bicycle or some nod to bicycling in some of these images. And then the architecture in the inn has been suggested that either another angle be taken or a more prominent landmark be used. There's a lot of discussion about either the Langston. That would be a way to also give a nod to our diversity. Or another angle of Main Street where you have the Freiberg's building, which is so photographed in our inventory of historic photos. It's so often photographed.
Yeah.
And
I
so
prefer less street sign in my murals.
Yeah. Not sure why that was chosen, but so anyway, working on that. And
I've also got to change the musical notes and make city cursive, like connect the C to the I, the T, and the Y, correct?
Yes, and add some more contrast around the borders of all the letters to make it pop out.
Right.
And this is done like through graphic, digitally. And so the next step is for this artist to then do a hand and painted rendering as their final design with those modifications included, just for your background info.
Do we know, are those real, is that a real mountainscape from this area, or is that just kind of made up on someone's hand?
Looks like Valley Beautiful to me. Somewhere around Unicoi.
Yeah.
Look at what I'm looking at.
There
Matt,
you go.
seeing as how we cannot vote on content, can you just remind us one more time what we're voting on?
The placement on the wall and
And that's
the
it,
material
the material.
are the things that have to be considered. So
Okay, and what is
location, the medium or the media, if you will. And that it meets these list of standards as well as the guidelines listed there.
So is it proposed that it be treated with a breathable protective coating? Is that the proposal?
It is proposed that there would be a anti-graffiti UV protection coating on the outside. The actual paint type has not been specified yet, and so that's part of the recommendations that specific paint type would be approved by the Public Art Committee and staff. After the Public Art Committee approves the design, well, the Public Art Committee would approve the design and the material that the artist can use, and that would be brought to staff for final go ahead.
And we are here to approve the material and the placement.
Yes, the mural, that box on that wall can be painted with art.
Do we need to do a public?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Toole. As always, we would love to hear from you. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. Our staff liaison, Mr. Manley, will be presenting a phone number and an email address, Zoom address on the screen if you'd like to weigh in. Is my understanding correct that the actual applicant here is the Johnson City Development Authority?
That's correct. They're not with us tonight. I told them, since I'm a member of the design committee, that I would present this on their behalf.
Wonderful. Okay, so the public hearing is open. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we are here for you. This is a little mini public telethon. If you want to give us a shout and give us some thoughts.
I'll take
the sixth caller.
Matthew Manley, 172 East Highland Road. I will say that that there was a lot of discussion about this, the process for this mural, and that's part of the reason why it's come before you. You could have looked at your approval of the downtown breezeway. You know, there's going to be art here, it's going to be art there, as y'all's kind of blessing for everything that was going to go on in there. But because there were some controversies surrounding the theme of Wagon Wheel, I felt like there needed to be more of a process. That theme was not presented to you. It was very quickly presented to the public as an open call for design ideas, and it immediately received criticism. And so I was very hands-on in intervening and trying to create a process through which we would get additional public input on the theme and the final design, and that it wasn't just done in a vacuum. And so this is part of that process for this getting looked at. Though with the limited role of the Historic Zoning Commission, the issues with the design, the criticism of the design or the theme are not as relevant, since it's not a content-based decision. And that's all my comments for the public hearing.
Mr. Manley, seeing as how we have no public commenters or applicants besides Mr. Manley, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. And I would love to hear from my fellow commissioners their thoughts.
Well, I was changing locations because the temperature is dropping up here. No. Unlike Dr. Whitfield, I'm not sitting in my van.
Yeah, Dr. Whitfield's van is, it looks pretty busted from what I can
Yeah,
see.
right. But I
His
just wanted
image
to
is frozen
clarify,
on the screen, so I'm going to take every chance I can.
right. No, I just wanted to comment, Matt, you said they were going to be changing some of the things. I like your comment about the end, changing the building in there, so it's not quite so bland, something a little more of interest, and adding some bicycles, that sort of thing. I basically kind of like the concept. I think what they've described here on this, and I don't really have a problem with the location. Of course, we're sitting here with we've done a great job of presenting the example and the content, but that is one of the crucial issues that we dealt with several years ago on how to put murals downtown, and that is we did not have a process at all. And historic zoning cannot make a subjective decision about, well, we don't like the murals, so we're not going to put it up there. That's not something we can legally do. And I think outside of that, I think it's appropriate. I think it's great. Some of the changes that you've been, and I think you can trust public art. I think they've been doing a great job with what they've been bringing up on
I
things.
agree with you,
That's
Val.
where I am.
I trust the discretion of public art. I think that they've done a great job. And if we're just weighing in on placement and materials, then I'm in favor. So
Is that a motion?
I would like to make a motion.
There we
If
go.
anybody has any other comments?
I'll second it.
There we go.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you, commissioners. We have a motion from Tool, a second from Dr. Hunter. Ms. Lawrence, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Biasca,
Yes.
Commissioner Forsyth,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hunter,
Yes.
Commissioner McCusker,
Yes.
Commissioner Toole,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield,
Yes.
and Chairman Brandt.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, guys. Just briefly, as I mentioned, I will be on leave. Got baby number 2 coming last week of October, which would be during our October Historic Zoning Commission meeting. And my goal was that hopefully we could satisfy any applicants without having to have a meeting, because we are short-staffed right now. And Preston would be hard pressed to fill in for me, given all the extra responsibilities that have been distributed. So I do know of one applicant that's going to be coming forward for a sign request, and I always try to do whatever I can to accommodate a small business that's trying to start out downtown. So what I would suggest is that we just have a meeting the week prior to my departure. So I'll send out an email about that and try and get that scheduled with plenty of notice.
You know what date that is, Matt?
So that would be the week of the 19th through the 23rd. There are the public meeting for the bridge plan that I mentioned is also that week on that Tuesday. So what I'd like to try and do is maybe do something during business hours, maybe a 4 o'clock start, if that's possible. All we need is 4 folks to get a quorum. And we're looking at, another sign for a small sign for a salon, and possibly this Montrose court. Of course, there are 2.5 weeks left for other applications to come in. But again, we're trying to do our best to, if there's anything that can be deferred to November, we'll try to do that. If there's anything that can be staff approved, we'll try to do that. So everybody good with me just following up email and trying to get that settled?
Yeah, that would be good.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That's
it for me.
You know the sex of the baby, Matt?
No, we're it's a surprise. We did that last time too. So
well played, Matt.
Turns out we love them either way. So
Matt, I recommend that the best way to find out is to start a massive wildfire. So you
All right. It was good to see you all. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you guys.
Hey, y'all. Meeting
Good job.
adjourned.
Great job tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Damn it.